Hello YouTube, we are back with another reality check. Welcome back to the channel, guys. First of all, I'd like to apologize I didn't get a video out yesterday. I was having some audio quality problems that I've had to work out. Everything seems to be working fine now. So again, I apologize, but in order to make it up to you, we're going to go a little bit deeper into depth today as far as what's been going on with the state of things. If you remember the last video that I posted, we were talking about the release of these Twitter files, correct? And I brought up a notable name to kind of get you guys a little bit ahead of the curve. And this man's name was James Baker. Well, what do we know? It hasn't been 48 hours, and it looks to me like old Mr. James Baker was the FBI's assistant at Twitter and scrubbed the Twitter files before Matt Taibbi, the man who released them, got a hold of them. And he's just been fired from Twitter headquarters. And a good move by Elon, right? But there's also somebody else you guys need to keep an eye on. And he's down here a little bit in my timeline. See if I can find him here real quick. His name is Joel Roth. Now, Joel Roth was the head of trust and safety for Twitter. And here's in his own words what he thinks of you. Here he is, Joel Roth. Public statement, right? It's his words. I'm just saying, we fly over these states that voted for a racist tangerine for a reason. And that's exactly what that man thinks of you. He's saying it bold-faced to, right to your face. Also notable, right? This whole thing may be connected. I'm not quite sure yet, but you come down here a half a step, and we've got FBI Special Agent D. Antorono. After 26 years and 10-month career with the FBI, he's choosing to retire. And it just so happens to coincide when House Republicans are announcing plans to investigate recent operations and actions at the Bureau. So, does this guy have a guilty conscience trying to get out of the limelight for SHTF? Only time will tell, right? Now, there's another connection here that everybody needs to kind of pay attention to. And it ties into a little thing Project Veritas has been doing. If you haven't followed Project Veritas, I don't know what you're doing, but you're not doing something right, right? Here's a video from Project Veritas, right? Basically exposing CNN for the propaganda they are, right? They're there in their own words.
I think we got him through this term. We would always show shots of him jogging, him in aviator shades, and like you paint him as a young geriatric. We were creating a story there that we didn't know anything about. So that's I think that's propaganda. Look what we did. We got Trump out.
There you heard it from the horse's mouth, right? I think that's propaganda. And we used it to get Trump out. There you have it. Make up your own mind, correct?
100% for CNN. And I 100% believe it, that if it wasn't for CNN, I don't know that Trump would have got voted out. Our focus was to get Trump out of office, right? Without saying it, that's what it was, right? So our next thing is going to be for climate change.
Keep in mind who this person is right here. Charlie Chester, CNN technical director, okay? These names are important. You're going to want to remember them because it's all going to tie together sooner or later. It always does. They're all connected in one way or another. It's one big. They want to say these things are conspiracy theories. No, what we're actually seeing is the revelation of a conspiracy, a criminal conspiracy. Okay, keep that in mind.
Awareness.
Do you think it's going to be just like a lot of fear, climate?
Yeah, fear sells. Fear sells.
No one ever says those things out loud, but it's obvious.
For years, we've heard that CNN is the most trusted name in news, but a CNN director is on tape telling us that they're propaganda, helping a certain political candidate, employees admitting what we've always known to be true.
Trump was, I don't know, his hand was shaking or whatever like that. We brought in so many medical people to all tell a story that it was all speculation. That he was neurological damage, that he was losing it, he's unfit to, whatever. We were creating a story there that we didn't know anything about.
I think there's just a COVID fatigue. So whenever a new story comes up, they're going to latch onto it. They've already announced in her office that once the public will be open to it, we're going to start focusing mainly on climate.
Well, there we go. They just showed their hand. Now, when you start seeing all this push for the climate, green new crap, right? You'll know that it's propaganda. They've just admitted to propaganda. CNN is a dead news agency. It's not even news. It's propaganda. The technical director just admitted it. I don't know what more evidence you need to prove that these guys are, as Trump said, fake news.
It's going to be our focus. Our focus was to get Trump out of office, right? Without saying it, that's what it was, right? So our next thing is going to be for climate change awareness.
Who decides that?
Head of the network,
Who's that? Is that Zucker?
Zucker, yeah.
Jeff Zucker, head of CNN, pushing a political narrative. And they've admitted to being propaganda. So if you're listening to these people, you have no idea how misled you're being misled, how badly you're being misled. It's ridiculous at this point.
Climate change is going to be the next COVID thing for CNN. We're gonna hone in. Our focus was to get Trump out.
Now, are these guys admitting that they pushed the COVID fear narrative? Fear sells, right? That's what they said before. Fear sells. So how dangerous is this whole COVID thing they locked and screwed our lives up for 2 years over? I'll leave that to your own decision making to figure out.
Of office, right? Without saying it, that's what it was.
And that's the question, Mr. Zucker. Why is it so important to hide the truth of what you're really trying to do?
All right, let's get out of that. And we'll go back to full screen here. And here's the other half of the deal, right? There's a missing component to this that hasn't been addressed yet, and I expect to be addressed in the next round of whatever information is released from Twitter, right? We've established that James Baker manipulated the information before it got to Matt Taibbi, right? But there's a missing component that nobody's really talking about yet that I think they will be talking about in the future, and that is the ties between Twitter and Perkins Coie, which is the same law. It's Hillary Clinton's law firm, if you're not familiar, right? They're also the outside counsel for Twitter. Probably another coincidence, I'm sure, right? Not really. Not in my mind. But time will tell, and they're talking about releasing more info, so whenever Elon pulls the trigger, I guess we'll find out how deep this whole conspiracy goes. But moving on, I also wanted to cover some international insanity, which is pretty much normal for these days, right? Sadly. It just came out this morning that the Biden administration has exchanged WNBA basketball player Brittany Griner for, get ready for this, the Merchant of Death. This is the man's MO. His nickname is the Merchant of Death, Victor Bout. Now, if you're not familiar with who Victor Bout is, he was portrayed by Nicolas Cage in the Lord of War movies, right, where they're running guns and international gun running. So she traded the Biden administration has traded an international arms dealer for a basketball player, and this is not where it's the worst at, right? We've got a Marine POW named Paul Weiland, who is still being held by Russia, being accused of being a spy. So instead of trading the gun runner for the Marine, who may or may not be a spy, I don't know. I mean, I don't have the whole story yet, but it's plausible. You know, there's always counter ops going after each other and stuff. But regardless, wouldn't you use? Why would you give up all your leverage for one proclaimed Marxist in Brittany Griner, right? For make it make sense, right? Make it make sense. All right, so what we're going to do here is we're going to go take a look around here. Give me just a second to pull this up. All right, we'll go right into this.
Rarely does the U.S. government want anyone more than
Little
anyone
background on
in
who
this
this
man.
man
His
is.
name is Victor Bout, and he's known as the Merchant of Death. U.S. government officials say Boot became the world's most notorious arms dealer by fueling civil wars around the world.
Now, keep in mind, this is CBS fake news, okay, from 2010, right? So they've already given everybody the answer, but pay attention. This is back in Bush number two's era, okay? So just pay attention, because there's a lot of information going to come out here, and it's going to probably make you a little aggro like it did me.
Courted by drug lords and dictators, the U.S. saw him as a threat because of his ability to arm terrorists targeting the United States. A former Russian military officer, Boot has been protected by powerful friends and long considered untouchable by law enforcement. But 3 years ago, the DEA devised a bold undercover operation to capture him. This past week, they brought him to New York to face terrorism charges. Tonight, those at the heart of Operation Relentless, a sting that spanned 3 continents, tell the story behind it for the first time.
Victor Boot, in my eyes, is one of the most dangerous men on the face of the earth.
On the face of the earth.
Without a doubt.
Mike Braun, the former chief of operations for the U.S. Drug Enforcement Administration, told us Boot first exploded on the scene in war-torn West Africa in the late 1980s. Elevating bloody conflicts from machetes and single-shot rifles to
AK-47s, not by the thousands.
Now keep this in mind, right? You've got the left constantly screaming for reparations for slavery and stuff, and here Joe Biden just releases a damn criminal that was arming these people to destroy freaking Africa. Make it make sense.
But by the tens of thousands.
So he weaponizes civil war in Africa.
He transformed these young adolescent warriors into insidious, mindless, maniacally driven killing machines that operated with assembly line efficiencies.
Now 43, Boot from the Soviet Republic of Tajikistan is a mystery man who reportedly served in the Soviet Air Force and intelligence service. The U.S. has indicted him on 4 terror-related charges, including conspiracy to kill Americans.
What makes him a threat to the United States?
He is a shadow facilitator. He's arming not only designated terrorist groups, insurgent groups, but he's also arming very powerful drug trafficking cartels around the globe.
Taking advantage of Russian military contacts at the highest levels and the collapse of the Soviet Union, federal prosecutors allege Boot essentially became a one-stop shop, offering an unlimited supply of stockpiled Cold War weapons to bad guys around the world, including Charles Taylor of Liberia, who's now on trial for war crimes. According to the U.S. indictment, Boot had a unique selling point when it came to weapons trafficking, a fleet of cargo airplanes capable of transporting weapons and military equipment anytime, anywhere, more than 60 planes in all, his own private air force.
Those Russian aircraft were built like flying dump trucks. He could move this stuff and drop it with pinpoint accuracy.
This man has a fleet of aircraft to drop the amount of weapons he's distributing to these war-torn countries. And Joe Biden just letting loose for a basketball player. My God.
To any desert, to any jungle, to any other remote place in the world, right into the hands of what I refer to as the potpourri of global scum.
By the late 1990s, Boot was a legend in the shadowy world of illicit arms dealing. So elusive that the only 2 pictures that surfaced of him back then were taken without Boot's knowledge by a Belgian photographer. Later, Boot became the inspiration behind the Nicolas Cage character in the movie Lord of War.
I was an equal opportunity merchant of death. I supplied every army but the Salvation Army.
U.S. Treasury documents reveal a Boot empire so sophisticated, so complex, hidden behind a thick curtain of front companies, that even the U.S. government unwittingly contracted with 2 of his companies to deliver supplies to U.S. troops in Iraq. Juan Zarate, Deputy National Security Advisor in the second Bush White House and a CBS News consultant, told us hiring Boot was a mistake.
This was one of the grave complications for the United States. Victor Boot's tentacles reached so far and so deep that he had access to planes that could provide services for the U.S. government.
Zarate.
That, to me, is a freaking cop-out from a Bush-appointed freaking political hack. You cannot tell me that the DoD does not have the ability to get weapons to soldiers and get them wherever the hell they need them. That they have to contract some damn gun running idiot, right? It makes no damn sense. Both sides are equally to blame for this. It was just a mistake. That's what they always say when they screw up. It was just a mistake. Well, how the hell why didn't they vet them? How can you tell me that you're contracting? If they're contracting that badly in the federal government, what else do we not know of?
He admitted the U.S. could do business with Boot, but it couldn't catch him.
I had always thought of Victor Boot as untouchable. And I also, frankly, didn't think that anyone could get to him.
A challenge Zerani from the White House threw out at a meeting with Mike Braun and his DEA team. The DEA had just pulled off a string of extraordinarily successful captures of high-value terrorism targets around the world, like Afghan drug lords.
DEA agents live for the hunt.
And Mike, no one had even gotten a sniff on this guy.
Let me tell you something, Armin. When I'm sitting there next to Juan, and my guys are sitting across the table from him, the very best that our government's got to offer, and he tosses this out on the table, and I look him in the eyes, and they're looking back at me like, we'll do this. We can do this.
But it was about a 5% chance in the back of my mind. And so, I wished them well, and I went back to the White House.
Mike Braun's thinking 95%, okay? 5 and 95 make 100. He was going down. He was in our crosshairs.
The DEA supervisor put in charge of the hunt for Victor Boot was Louis Milioni.
We felt that we could create a scenario that would pull him in.
The plan was to pull Boot out of Moscow with a huge arms deal he couldn't refuse. To do that, the DEA hired an undercover agent to contact a trusted associate of Boot's named Andrew Smulyan. The DEA operative said he had a big business deal for Boot.
I'm thinking in terms of fishing here. It's almost like you've thrown the line in the water. There's a little bit of bait. This is a business proposition, and you're waiting to see if anything comes back with a nibble.
All right, that's enough of that mess. If you want to get the full context and watch the rest of the video, it's going to go to a commercial here real soon that you don't really want to see, and I don't really feel like editing around. So, if you want the full context, all you have to do is Google Victor Bout CBS News, and it'll pull right up for you on YouTube or wherever platform you're looking on. If you want to watch the rest of it, it's about a 15-minute clip, but in the interest of keeping this thing rolling, we are going to go look around here and see what else we can find. Because this gets even deeper. Okay, here we have it. Starting to get the reactions from the conservatives, right? You got Benny basically pointing, this is Brittany Griner, if you're not aware, and this is Victor Boot, right? You're trading basically a famous sports, well, semi-famous sports star, only famous because she got caught doing illegal crap, which, don't get me wrong, she got busted for like 9 years for having fucking hash oil, right? It's a little extreme in my opinion, especially for possession of a damn narcotic or whatever, but the punishment doesn't fit the crime as she was charged. I fully see that. But here's the other half of the matter. This is not a fair trade for an international gun running crazy, okay? And here we have this gentleman right here is Paul Weiland. This is a U.S. Marine that I was talking about earlier, right? That's been held by Russia for 4 years, accused of being a spy. That the Biden administration chose to choose this crazy instead of and leave our soldiers behind enemy lines in the interest of saving their own political, ideologically entwined stooge, right? And it's just disgusting if you ask me. But there's another connection here that, as far as international insanity goes, and that goes on down here to Ukraine. If y'all didn't know, well, check this out. It's down here somewhere. Right here. Here we go. Vladimir Zelensky is named Times 22 Person of the Year. Well, that's a great honor, isn't it, Time Magazine? Until you come down here and realize, yeah, he's not the first communist to make the cover of Time Magazine or communist sympathizer. Okay. This kind of ties in as well. This post here, right? These are the they try to run this House bill for the DoD spending, right? 829 billion in DoD spending, right? But they're wanting to lift the jab mandate on all soldiers, right? Only 13 GOP senators are tied onto this. So if you don't see your senator here, I'd say get on the phone and start raising some holy cane, because that's unacceptable, in my opinion. Let's see. There's more on here somewhere. I'm missing it somewhere. Oh, I've got a video that pertains to this whole Zelensky thing too, right? Let's just go right into that. We'll just go shoot right into it. What we have here is a kind of look at the Azov battalion inside of Ukraine, right? And all these things tie together. These are all communist organizations. You can see it by their the tattoos they wear, by the symbology on their uniforms. And if you've done any research on symbology, it'll be obvious to you. It's been kind of bold-faced shoved in everybody's face lately, but I want to let you guys have a little look at this and see what you think.
Seemed like an odd way to spend a Saturday, watching the blood sports at a festival for far-right extremists.
Now, there's something I want to address right off the bat. Far-right extremists trying to be linked with a neo-Nazi organization, right? They're trying to do the same crap with Trump supporters these days. Oh, if you don't agree with the mainstream media, or you don't agree with the Democrat, you're a far-right extremist, therefore labeling you as a communist. At the same time, the Biden administration is abetting communist Russia by releasing their biggest gun runner that they have. So make it make sense.
This was the summer of 2019, and I'd gone to Ukraine to learn more about these groups. From the crowds, one thing seemed pretty clear about them. They weren't bothered by the fact that this event was organized by the Azov movement, a far-right group that has increasingly been linked to violence around the world.
The shooter is linked to a 74-page manifesto filled with white supremacist rhetoric.
FBI agents say he expressed a desire to travel to Ukraine to fight with a far-right paramilitary group.
At least one member of an American hate group also trained in Ukraine, with Azov Battalion.
According to the FBI, domestic terrorists killed 39 people in fiscal year 2019, making it the most deadly year for domestic terrorism since the 1995 Oklahoma City bombing.
The threat of white nationalism has evolved since Oklahoma City, where a domestic terrorist used a truck bomb to kill at least 168 people. Police don't tend to see such terrorists as lone wolves acting in isolation anymore. It's become clear to law enforcement that these attackers often have links to a global network, one with common goals and a shared ideology.
We are looking very hard at white supremacists or neo-Nazis here, connecting through social media online with like-minded individuals overseas, and in some cases actually traveling overseas to train.
Over the last few years, experts in violent extremism have grown especially alarmed about the Azov movement. The group emerged from the revolution.
They're not that concerned if they're going to send that country $500 billion of your taxpayer dollars, now are they?
That swept across Ukraine in 2014, and it has gotten a lot stronger amid the ongoing war with pro-Russian forces in eastern Ukraine. The fighting in that region has become kind of ideal breeding ground for militias like Azov.
Sorry, we got an ad jumping in. Got a plan on that part. Just gotta bear with me. I'll let this part. Sorry about that.
At their public events, one thing that surprised me was how many Ukrainians tend to see Azov not as militants or extremists, but as war heroes. In Kiev, the capital, I watched an Independence Day parade where veterans of the Azov battalion marched alongside other volunteer militias, surrounded by cheering crowds, who thanked them for defending Ukraine against Russia. But even at the march, there were signs of the far-right ideology that's so common inside Azov. The symbols on their flags have been especially controversial. Azov says it combines the letter.
Pay attention to the symbology. It's gonna show you the truth. They don't try to hide it.
Letters I and N for idea of nation, but extremism experts see it as an emblem of Nazism.
The official symbol of Azov, it's a version of Volksangel. It was one of the symbols of one of SS division during the World War II. It is one of more or less usual symbols for neo-Nazi groups all over the world.
And it's not just about their symbols. When it was founded in 2014, Azov drew many of its commanders and recruits from Ukraine's most notorious far-right groups, including outright neo-Nazis.
We basically recruited everyone who could hold weapons in their hand when Ukrainian state was paralyzed and the defense of Ukrainian state was totally in the hand of Ukrainian volunteers. So there were many war adventurers, guys who believed that they are on a kind of ideological tour to save maybe the future of the West and so on and so forth. So
the future of the white race?
Or, yes.
Azov's paramilitary wing is now a major fighting force, with its own bases and training grounds near the...
So here's the biggest problem I have with this whole white race, this whole black race crap, this whole Mexican, Latino, whatever, Latinx, whatever stupid name they come up with today. Racism is a logical fucking fallacy, all right? I'm just going to say it. Pardon my French, by the way. It's a logical fallacy. There's only one race, the human race. If you haven't figured that out yet, you are the part of the freaking problem. Wake the hell up. This shit has to stop. Now, there are very many different tribes and ethnicities within that human race, but there is only one freaking race. So this whole claim of racism is a logical fallacy.
Front lines of the war against pro-Russian forces. After the Veterans Parade in Kiev, I interviewed Andrei Beletsky, who founded the Azov movement in 2014.
Воинское братство – это люди, которые не просто служили вместе, вместе проливали кровь, переживали гибель товарищей, сладость побед, охраны общественного порядка на улице. Мы создаем отряды самообороны, которые помогают поддерживать порядок на улицах.
Azov's leaders have also tried to break into politics. They failed to win any seats in parliament during the most recent elections in 2019, but their plans in Ukraine are ambitious.
Сьогодні ми відпочиваємо, але навіть відпочиваючи, ми пропагуємо наші нові українські цінності. Бути сильними і сміливими, бути єдиними і відчувати братерство своєї нації.
What worries officials in the West is Azov's recruitment strategy. It's tried hard to build friendships with far-right groups around the world, especially in the US and Europe. During my visit in 2019, I spent a day at one of the biggest recruitment events in Azov's history. Thousands of people showed up for a day of fighting sports and blatant propaganda. There were neo-Nazi symbols, tattoos, and posters all over the place. And many in the crowd seemed pretty receptive to Azov's far-right ideology.
Бути толерантним про-ЛГБТшникам – це не природне. Для цього треба людині промити мозки. Поважати своїх батьків, любити своїх дітей, пишатися за свою країну – це нормально.
Events like this also tend to attract recruits from abroad. One of the ones I met was named Robin, who had just arrived in Ukraine from Sweden, where he told me he's wanted for hate crimes.
This is hard to explain the surroundings for someone who's watching this, you know. It's surreal. It's like, I don't know, it's like something you read about the great Germany before, you know, in the 1920s. It's
Full stop. The great Germany from before in the 1920s? Don't you remember what the flip was going on back in those days? Look at the bug eyes on this creep. This guy is nuts.
a revival of the Indo-European soul. And it's all happening here in Ukraine.
Afterward, we rode back to the Azov base in northern Kyiv, where Azov commanders had allowed Robin to stay as a potential recruit.
We are Aryans, and we will rise again. That's a way of...
Take him up!
Here we go again, stinking ads. All right, we're going to just get through it real quick.
Take action with American Express Business Cloud.
Introducing the new blackened chicken sandwich. No breading, all flavor.
It would figure as soon as I start recording.
Life, you know. And after the war in Germany, we went back to the benches, school benches. But now we will rise again.
So, What are they talking about? The Fourth Reich? Read between the lines, people. They don't try to hide it. The only people that really try to hide this from you are the dang propaganda news media. If I go on here and spend, what, 30 minutes pulling this mess up, doing a few little internet searches, there's no reason for anybody to expect that you're ever going to get the truth out of the mainstream media, right? You've got to go out and find it yourself. It's not somebody else's job to educate you. You are all grown adults. Educate yourselves, or you're going to end up repeating history again.
Are they neo-Nazis as an organization? No. Have they had neo-Nazis in their organization? I would say look at the U.S. Army, and you would find neo-Nazis as well.
Horse shit. I call it horse shit. These weak-ass veterans. I don't know what the hell's wrong with these people. These people are, I don't know if this guy's got PTSD or what his problem is, or whether he's just a psychopath. Maybe he's got shell shook, whatever the hell you want to call it, but he ain't freaking right in the head, because ain't no responsible veteran on this planet with any discipline or any integrity going to feed you that line of bullshit.
Dave is an American expat and U.S. military veteran who has volunteered to help Ukraine's National Guard. And he's met a lot of the recruits who'd come to join Azov.
You only need one of these guys to kind of go home and commit an act of terrorism to then really damage the reputation of Ukraine in the eyes of the world, right? So that's really a risk that Ukraine faces. Do you think they're taking it seriously enough?
No, yes.
A few weeks later, Robin, the Swede I met at that festival, wrote me that he was going to the front lines to join the fight. With recruits like this, it's little wonder that U.S. officials see Azov as a threat. Experts point out that the pace of white supremacist terrorism has intensified, with new incidents frequently filling the headlines. 22 gunned down at a Walmart in El Paso, Texas, 2 killed near a synagogue in Halle, Germany, 9 more in an attack on 2 shisha bars near Frankfurt, and a series of arrests exposing far-right terror plots across the US and Europe. One tally reported an increase of 320% in such attacks in Western countries between 2014 and 2019.
Я знаю, я вірю, я переконаний, що ми готові до боротьби, що ми готові бути сміливими і сильними, що ми готові перемагати. Бо за нами Україна, а перед нами наша остаточна велика перемога. Слава Україні! Героям слава! Слава нації! Смерть ворогам! Україна!
What's wrong with that salute? Doesn't that look familiar? Anybody ever seen anything like that before? Who salutes like that? I don't know, you're going to have to figure that one out for yourself, I guess, fellas. But, alright, I got one more video to show you here. Let me go back full screen here, get out of this mess. This is from your Secretary of State. Let's see if I can find her real quick. Thanks for bearing with me. It's up here somewhere. Down here. Where did I drop it at? Right here. Alright, folks, come on along for the ride. This is your Secretary of State Blinken.
First, we don't do policy by polls. We do policy based on the interests of the United States. And the interests of the United States are clearly in supporting and helping Ukraine defend itself against this aggression from Russia.
All right, this is a place where you probably want to comment in the dang comment section. Don't forget to like and subscribe and share and all that stuff, guys. It does help the channel. The more people I can reach, the more people I can attempt to freaking help them to pull their heads out of their butts and realize what's really going on. Yeah, just listen to the man. He's not very smart.
First and foremost, I think Americans across the board care about a situation in which one nation is trying to bully another and to do terrible damage to the country, to its people that we're seeing. But beyond that, I think there's an understanding that what's at stake in Ukraine are vitally important principles that go to peace and security around the world.
Like Hunter's ties to Burisma. Don't leave that part out, right, guys? If you're not paying attention, you don't know what that's about. Yeah. Joe's son Hunter, it's coming full circle, right? Why did they suppress the Hunter Biden laptop? What do you think's on there that implicates him into the dealings in Ukraine? It's all coming full circle. It's just taking a long time to get there.
The notion that one nation can't simply try to redraw the borders of another by force, subjugated to its will by force. And I think Americans know and understand that if we let something like that go with impunity, then we're likely to see a Pandora's box open where aggressors around the world will get a message that they're free to proceed and do exactly that.
Translation, only the United States is allowed to bully people around. Or China, only the biggest dog in the fight's allowed to do whatever the hell they want. So what they're really doing is you've got, in my opinion, is you've got NATO, right, which is battling China. China's pushing their Belt and Road Initiative to the east or to the west, right? At the same time, the United States has been fighting these proxy wars in Afghanistan and Iraq, and now in Ukraine, right, to try to push back to the east. And you're going to end up with the entire Chinese military against the entire United Nations, and they're going to put us into a world of hurt if this crap is not de-escalated and these people are not out of office. These people are not, they don't have your best interest in mind. If you haven't figured that out yet, well, you can't say I didn't warn you.
The same thing, and that's a world that will be much more difficult, much more challenging for America, for its interests as well as its values. Of course, and President Biden has said this many times, no foreign policy can be effectively sustained without the informed consent of the American people. So
now I want to catch on that too, because this one, when I first heard this kind of aggravated me too. You need informed consent of the people, right? Where was the informed consent when it came to the old prick in the arm thing? Where was the informed consent on that? There was none. None. You must comply. This is a mandate, and you must comply to it. Crap. Bull crap. These people talk out both sides of their mouth, and they are just as corrupt as they come. And anybody that has their eyes open can see it. It's plain as day. They don't try to hide it.
It's always important for us to make sure that we're communicating and that we're hearing from Americans, and of course we do that as well with our engagements with their representatives, members of Congress. But the hallmark to date of our efforts in support of Ukraine have been very strong bipartisan support. I don't see signs of that ending. Callie, thank you. Let me start. With regard to the
and there's part of the problem, right? If you've got bipartisan support, what does that tell you about the Republican Party? Think about it. What does that tell you? If you believe what he's saying is true, which you can't because they always lie. They're politicians. They always lie. If that's true that we've got bipartisan support for this whole thing in Ukraine, which, based on what I showed you earlier, what's that? You can't just look at the Democrats. The Democrats are bold-faced and obvious about it, right? But there's a lot of these Republicans that are snakes and globalists too. If you haven't figured that out yet, you need to take a real hard look at the people you're voting for on either side of the aisle, because the real difference is you've got people that don't have the United States interest in mind versus a bunch of people that want to sell us out to a globalist freaking cabal, basically NATO. They want NATO to take over, and so they can use that to push their desires or their will upon the rest of the damn world. It's what's been going on my entire life, and it needs to freaking stop like yesterday. But I digress. Okay, there's one or two more things here I want to show you to kind of keep you in the loop here. All right? And let's go back down here to... where's that? Right here. Old Prickster, right? Old Governor Fat Ass, right? Starting January 1st, if you live in this state, guess what? They're eliminating cash bail for violent criminals. And these people somehow get magically reelected. How does that work? Who are the idiots that are voting for this? You can't make me believe that anybody's actually voting for these kind of freaking programs and ideas, right? Make it make sense. Somebody make it make sense, because it makes no damn sense to me. There's another one thing I wanted to cover with you. The January 6th thing, right? Y'all don't know, this is the Capitol police officer that they had testifying during the January 6th mess. Here he is, pictured with Kathy Griffin with a "fuck Trump" mug. You're sitting there smiling and smirking. The same Kathy Griffin that, if you remember right, back in the day, 4, 5, 6 years ago, got kicked off this platform for holding a damn a fake severed Trump head. These people are sick. They're sick. There's another one I'll nail right here since I'm at it. We got Jack Dorsey on Twitter files, right, that we were talking about at the beginning of the video, asking why not just release everything without filter and let the people judge for themselves. Jack had the opportunity to do that when he was the CEO of the company. You talk about hypocrisy. I don't know if he was honeypotted or whether he was blackmailed or what, or just a coward. But for him to come out and say this kind of crap now, it's like tone deaf as it gets. Let's see. If there's anything else I want to kind of cover real quick. Oh, there's plenty of sick crap going on. I ain't going to get into that on this video. But here's something I wanted to kind of show you. Check this out. Here we have Barack Obama. She stayed, right? Kind of read through this, right? Same pictures. Lori Lightfoot, same pictures. They're marching in lockstep. Kathy Hochul, New York governor, lockstep. They all repeat the same messaging. They are not even posting their own mess. They've got people that do it for them, and they don't fundamentally believe anything. They just got people that CYA for them. They got these big staffs of people that just cover their butts. And I'm telling you, it's a slippery slope. If these people are, if you trust these people and you believe what you're being told in the media, you are at this point a fool. I don't know what else other way to say it to you any nicer way. But like I said, we covered kind of a lot of ground on here, and don't forget to like, share, subscribe, and do all the clicking at the bottom and stuff. If you like what you're seeing, if you've got ideas for things you want me to cover in the future, drop them in the comments. I'm always looking for ideas, and in the meantime, until I get some traction, I'm going to keep covering current events as best as I can, and try to tie all this together to where it makes sense, because there's so much disinformation, aka propaganda, right, from both sides. Don't get it wrong. Don't get it twisted. It's not just from the right. It's from the left also. It's from both sides. You're being manipulated, because if they can control what you think, they can control what you do or don't do. And that's how this whole thing's being propagated, right? I mean, just look what they did with the lockdowns and stuff. If they can control what you think and put you in a state of fear, they can control what you do. Don't let them have that authority over you. But until next time, stay safe out there. Keep your head on a swivel. Do your research. Look things up for yourself. You will be surprised how much you can learn just spending 30 minutes to an hour a day just going through and trying to make sense out of things. And don't believe anything you're told from anybody, because if you do, you're going to end up being twisted up and caught in some kind of whirlwind of crazy that may not have anything. You might be just wasting your time, right? Or you could be made to believe things that may be true, that may not be true. But you have to kind of give it time to let this whole thing play out, to figure out where this thing's actually going. And but until next time, everybody stay safe, and we'll see you next time. Bye.